So we are live and direct here at our Fulton County facility. This is our landscape painting class, and we do have Mr. Lewis Dudley over here doing some filming for us. So some of the issues that we had with the, you all seeing the artwork as clear as you know, it's really clear. I think Mr. Dudley is going to help us with that. So when you go to your YouTube and see the videos, you'll be able to see more clearly what we're doing, and I won't have to have that issue of you not seeing exactly what's going on here. So I do want to thank everyone for being here. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Hope everyone is nice and safe. Background mountains here. We just push these things far, far back. And we spoke about how to push things far back in a painting is to use a lot of the grayscale. So when we're using a grayscale, when we're using soft grays, what we're doing is we're pushing something far, far back into the horizon, and we don't want it to have too much attention. We don't want it to be too dark, because what it could do is to take away some of the attention from those in the foreground. So if we're doing distant mountains, let's make sure that we understand these mountains should be nice and soft. So we use a lot of grays, and let me see if we can get this person in. Miss Bradley is waiting. Okay. I do apologize, Miss Bradley. Hi, Miss Eloise. I do apologize for not admitting you in so early. But yeah, we just want to make sure we understand these gray mountains back here. We're pushing things back, and we're not just using gray. If you recall, we used a little bit of our purple, and we used some blues and a smidge of some magentas, so we could have these soft mountains in the background. And now we want to make sure that we use our tones to bring the lighthouse out of the distance. So we do have a layer of things here. So we do have this tree, which is closer to us, and then we have this rock, which will be next up, and then we have this wave, and then behind the wave, the next element or in our composition would be the lighthouse here. So we want to make sure that we're putting things in the proper perspective, and by that we want to make sure that things that are closer are going to be larger. Like, we're pretty sure that these mountains would tower above this tree. However, from our perspective, this tree is going to be taller than the mountains that we see on the horizon in the background. So these are the things that we want to keep in mind that really help us to make a strong piece, and so that we can do some powerful painting. So I do want us to understand that there is a concept, you know, with everything that we do, there's the concepts. And when we master these concepts, this is when we begin to get these powerful lifelike effects. So what we can do right off the rip is to go right in here and to build up our lighthouse here. And so what I'm using is titanium buff. I don't want to go too bright with this light. And if we could be mindful that if we have any background noise going on, if you want to mute yourself, that'll be just fine, because it could cause a disturbance to those who are listening to the class. And I do appreciate everyone's patience and your participation. Thank you so much. So what we'll do is, with the titanium buff, which is a toned down version of white, we'll go in here to this light side of our lighthouse. And we just want to streak in the light. We just kind of want to intensify this level of the lighthouse. And we want this to be the lightest portion of the lighthouse, meaning that we want to control the intensity of the light. So if the light source is coming from this side, then it's going to hit this side of the lighthouse. However, this means that the shadows will creep around to the other side. So we have a light side as well as a shadow side. So what we're doing is streaking in the subtle light that we see on the light side. And we want to gradually allow this to blend into our existing colors, and which will be some of our softer grays that we're using, just to give the illusion that this is a three-dimensional round lighthouse, and not just a building that has one color paint on one side and a different color paint on the other side. So this is helping us to build up the structural integrity of our lighthouse, and it's to help it to stand out in front of our mountains, yet also stand securely behind the subject matter, which is kind of really our crash over wave here and maybe our tree, but it's all a cohesive unit working together. So we don't want any one element to stand out more than any other element. So what we want to do is just blend in a little bit of this highlight that we have here, this titanium buff, which is an off-white. We're just blending this into the existing shadow color. So now I want to just kind of, which is almost like exaggerating. We're just gonna do a little exaggeration of our shadow side. And I do say a little exaggeration. We don't want to kind of overdo this. So what I'm gonna do is go into a little black, and I want to make sure I tone down that black by adding some titanium buff. Therefore, it's not going to be an extreme dark tone. So with this titanium buff and a little bit of black, we're going to create like a smoky gray. And what we'll do is just come on the shadow side of the lighthouse, and we just kind of want to accentuate or kind of identify this shadowy side by making a softer shadow. And I want you to see how this is going to give us that illusion that we want, that this is a three-dimensional form. It's a lighthouse that's actually turning, and again, not just some structure that's painted one color on one side and another color on the opposite side. Because we can see a building like that. In fact, we see lighthouses that have a red strip across. So, and I think I want to add this to this lighthouse. Those of us who've been up on the northern eastern seaboard, you know that they have a lot of lighthouses there in Maine and all these places where seafaring and all these activities are very popular. So we're definitely going to have some lighthouses there. And lighthouses have a kind of a mystique to them. People kind of like lighthouses. You have collectors, people who like pictures with lighthouses, paintings with lighthouses. So this does add a nice element to our picture. And it really is one of those things that you find collectors who really like certain things, and if you're lucky enough, they may choose your painting that they want to purchase. So we're just adding our shadow side here. Just want to come in with our soft gray. So this is black with titanium buff. We just want to make sure it's not begging for too much attention. We don't want it to beg for too much attention. And we always want to understand that light must be streaking. So light is not always a heavy line that's sitting somewhere or hanging out somewhere. A lot of times light streaks and moves around the surface that it's on. So like light, it could distribute differently around the shirt and around the wrinkles and folds that you see. The more I move, you see that light distributes and moves along with everything else that moves. So we have a crash of a wave. There are ways to indicate movement in our water. There's ways to indicate movement even on a flat surface. So that's one of the things that we want to understand. We're creating understandings of illusions, and we're going to pop out one of our other landscapes to show another concept of how we build in dramatic pieces into our landscapes. So I'm going to hold this up to our camera shortly. I do want to streak some tones in here. It's like I love it sometimes when it's streaking in some tones, when it's not so perfect. We don't want everything to look so perfect and uniform. Sometimes when it comes to the distribution of light, by making it streaky and making it not so uniform, we get an incredible lifelike effect. So that's what we're shooting for. Some realism here, and we want to make sure we understand the concepts that really help us to get right where we want to be. And I'm going to hold this up to our camera so we can see exactly what we've done with these little streaking motions here. Is blending in our shadow side and our light side. And I'm going to hold this closer so we can see what happens when we build up our light side to our shadow side. So we have our light side here on our lighthouse. And of course, there are other elements to our lighthouse where the actual light will go. But for now, we just want to see that how we can build up this lighthouse. We're using softer tones, and there are some refinements that we can do to make things come to life. But also, we just want to show that everything in painting is a stage, is a step. So let's look at it like that. If we look at this process as we're doing one stage that leads to the next stage, that leads to the next stage. So this is how we want to look at our art and not beat ourselves up or be too hard on ourselves about any one concept. Now I do want to, I'm not to switch gears too quickly, but I kind of wanted to make a point about some of the issues and some of the things that we'll be dealing with when it comes to landscape paintings. And I have this particular landscape painting that was a piece, and if you see it's a piece in construction. We have some banana palms here, and we have this huge interplay of waterfalls coming down here. And we want to show how we can create this on a staircase waterfall, how we can make some bold decisions that really can bring our picture to make a lot of sense and to make our painting have a powerful effect that really makes people feel like they can walk into it, or they can feel the water, or whatever the essence of our subject. We kind of want people viewing our art to kind of feel that they can kind of be a part of it, so to speak. So if you're painting a jazz picture or something, you kind of want people to feel like they can almost hear the music. So if we're doing this waterfall, we kind of want to have splashing and creating the type of elements that makes a person simply looking at this almost feel like they can hear birds, or smell the water, or hear the fall. So these are the things in our landscape paintings that we want to keep in mind, that understanding, creating the mood of what we're painting and trying to bring those elements so that the viewer can be essentially captured by what we're doing. So I want to put this up to show us a really cool method of popping in some, this would be a really simple method of popping in some dramatic effects. And by doing dramatic effects, we really get wonderful things. And I want to, dramatic effects really help our picture to kind of have a space of its own, kind of, so to speak, where if you look at something and it's sort of like something else, then it's necessarily not unique. However, when we start to add certain elements to our picture that makes it unique for this picture, then we can begin to see some wonderful things. So this staircase waterfall that we see in nature, I would imagine it's a bunch of rocks behind here. And we do see a few rock elements here. And I know people spoke about how do we paint rocks and how do we get more comfortable doing these type of things in our landscape setting. And this is one of the things that we want to do. And the first thing that we can do to create the dramatic effect, all of this water is in a very light tone. So one of the first things that we can do to create dramatic effect is to create the accompanying shadows that's going to allow some of our effects to come in. So what I'll do is take some of our darker tones. I'm just going to take a little black, but I'm going to make sure I tone that down. I don't want it to be super dark black. I just want to take some black, and I'll take some purple, and we'll add a little brown as well. So this ensures that this is no longer black. Just kind of ensures that it's something dark, okay? We want dark tones. So a lot of times when we're mixing, we're simply mixing for darker tones. So what I want to do here is come right underneath the areas of our waterfalls and create the accompanying shadows that's going to allow the waterfalls to actually stand out more. So I'm coming here and I'm working in a horizontal plane, meaning that I'm using, I like to work my brush side to side. So even if I'm moving downward, I'm moving my brush side to side. I want to honor the horizontal plane for anything that is on a horizontal level, like a rock or land. Even if land is going downhill a little bit, we still have what we would call the horizontal plane, or the horizon, things that move from side to side. Now, when we talk about the waterfall, we want to honor the vertical plane. This is, of course, things that go up and down. So when we're placing our shadows in here, the first thing I'm doing, I'm honoring the horizontal plane with my shadows. I'm moving side to side so that we can make some sense out of this staircase waterfall. So I'm coming in here with my darkness, creating the shadow areas so that now it can begin to make sense. And it doesn't have to make sense immediately, as long as we said, each stage that we do comes together to tell the story, so to speak. And every time we come in to add something, we kind of see what these effects are going to do for our total outcome. So I'm just adding my dark tones here. Again, we have some black, we have some brown, and a smidge of purple. And this ensures that it's no longer just black. And it makes it that much more interesting as well. So again, I'm following along these areas where I see rocks, connecting with our waters, and I'm honoring the horizontal plane. I'm actually just working in some darker tones in between these spaces so that it can begin to make more sense from a visual perspective. So I'm coming in here with our black, mixing down again, taking some of our brown, so we no longer have deep, deep, dark black. I'm going to add a little bit more of these tones in here. And then I want to pop in some water at one of the level areas. So we'll find one of these level areas. And I think this may be one really good area where we could probably imagine if we're out in nature and we see this beautiful staircase falls. I don't know if you're out on some of that exotic property that you own in the country or wherever you are at some national park. When we can see these staircase falls, we can imagine that there are some levels that are on the horizontal plane, meaning that there are some levels that if you were walking, you could stand in the water, but then the water will come down and continue to fall over rocks. So what we'll be doing is popping in a few little areas of the horizontal landmass that people could actually stand on. So again, this is like a staircase, just like stairs, they go out and then down, they go out and then down, out and down. Well, this is the similar thing when we say staircase waterfall, where we're talking about rocks that can kind of continue down and the waters just fall over them in their own way. So we definitely want to make sure that we create some of our darkness, because this is going to allow some of our blues in our level areas to stand up. So let's see exactly what we're talking about when we do that. And I really feel it's really an advantage to start out with our darker blues, because we can always add a little lighter blues to kind of get the effect that we want. So, and even water always assumes the color that it's reflecting. So water is a liquid mirror, if you will. So if the sky is blue, then we'll most likely see some blue water if the water is still. Now, moving water like this tends to have a white or an off-white sort of motion because it's moving and it's agitated. So we see like splashing water. We kind of see that indicated from an art perspective in white tones or light tones like that. So we want to understand how we're using our paints to kind of tell a story and to get the certain effects that we want. So if we start with our darker tones, we can actually sneak in some lighter tones. So I'm going to come here to this level area. This is going to be like an area where you can imagine maybe some of the water has pooled up right here before it continues to fall down the waterfall. So I just want to create little pooling areas in here, and it can get darker in the corners as the water rushes off into the corners. More on our horizontal levels, and knowing that as the water falls, it's going to create some of these agitations that we see, but we also want to create some of the water tones that we would see here. And then now we can think about adding a little bit of our white to the water to give it some true like water tones that we would see. Not super, super dark, but we just kind of want to indicate these tones as a plain level. And we can also add more plants and more flowers in these areas to kind of make it more believable. Those are things that we will add in a little later. So I'm just adding in a little bit of our blues here. This is almost like blocking in before we come back and do a fine-tuned detail stage. So we have some pooling of water coming down, and we're going to create more agitation. We're going to lighten up some of this water in certain areas, and we're going to allow it to be darker in other areas. And we also understand that there's going to be a waterfall point here where we're going to be using our brush strokes and begin to honor the vertical plane where our water falls over down, coming down the waterfall. So these are the areas that we can kind of just indicate that there'll be a vertical switch here. So I'm curving this. Notice how we curve this water so that it's coming from the level down the waterfall. So we're just creating cool concepts of landscape simply by following our understanding. I'm reminded of, as a kid, going to Niagara Falls when I start just being so enthused by falls. And when my uncle was telling me that there are people who get into boats and tubs and they go over the falls, I was like, not me. So it is interesting how people will use these waterfalls to put their life on the line. So I want to hold this closer to our camera just so we can see some of the element working that we're going here. We work on some of our horizontal plane. We're bringing the horizontal plane into the vertical plane, and we're just dragging in little bit by little bit. But we're going to have to also create more shadows in these areas so that the darknesses around here that we're going to put here is going to allow the water to appear to stand out more. So I just wanted to show us what's going on here, and while we don't need to be so concerned if things aren't looking the way we want them to look at these stages, we're just building up in stages. And we're going to add a little bit more titanium white here. We're going to pull these waterfalls down off the flat plane. So we're going to come from the horizontal plane and introducing the vertical plane. So this is what we're doing, and we're trying to, again, just create this understanding of the staircase waterfall. And we're just adding our elements by simply curving our brush, curving the brush. We get some really nice water streaky movements here of the water falling down, going downward into our staircase waterfall. So we have a really powerful effect going on here, and we just want to continue this understanding of movement, of randomness. We don't want everything to look so perfect or so like the other one. We kind of want to make things look a little bit random. So we don't want every tree to look alike or every waterfall to have the exact same amount of strokes or anything of that nature. We kind of want randomness. And then we'll also have randomness. To create randomness, you'll have a few trickles of water that falls over rocks, by itself, or a few trickles of plant life that comes out elsewhere. So we just want to understand the development of these landscape pictures is all about the interplay of light and shadow. It's about understanding which level are we on. Are we on a level plane or are we on a vertical plane? And the overlapping. When we have things that's overlapping, when this plant overlaps this waterfall, if this rock overlaps this, or we have a tree, a branch that comes out to overlap, that's just going to create more powerful effects. So we just want to make sure that we're creating all of the effects that give us the powerful feeling and that makes the viewer really believe in what we're painting. So we just want to mirror this and bring this down into our beginning of our waterfall. And we'll again have these things refined. Once we look at these levels, we're just going to refine these and begin to show how we can add other elements like more rocks. More rocks are really a really powerful way to kind of bring in these waterfall pictures, and having rocks and the understanding of how rocks are blocked in. Like when I say block in, like if I just take the dark tone, I can block in some rocks right here just by doing a simple shape, a blocking in shape. Now that's a rock. So now I can continue on. The idea is to make these random. And these are the things that we want to place in that could also continue the illusion. And when we say random, we mean some are smaller, some are larger. But as we go further back into our composition, we know that things appear to get smaller. So although there could be a rock back on the back portion of our piece that is actually larger than a rock in the foreground. However, we're using our concept of perspective, that things that go back into space, they appear to get smaller. So we just want to pop in some of our darkness on some of our rocks. We're just popping these in, and we'll show you how we're going to come back and do some really cool effects to make the rocks just pop out. You can just blend in, it's no problem. And we're going to pop these base rock shapes in. Base rocks, just in darkness, all darkness. We're not even concerned about any light hitting them. All we're doing is just popping in a little rocks here, a few shadowy tones.
Can you let bevel again?
I sure can. Sure. I do apologize, ladies. Thank you so much. I'm sorry.
Is that oil or acrylic?
This is oil. This is oil paint. Hello, Miss Beverly. How you doing?
Hi there, thank you.
I'm so sorry. I was not paying attention over here. I do apologize.
It's cool, thanks. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Miss Peggy,
Yes.
why you didn't tell me Randall got killed on if loving you is wrong?
You know I don't look at that.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I started, but I stopped.
Okay.
Too much.
It's too much.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we have our popped in. I'm gonna be like Miss Eloise. I'm not gonna watch nothing but art stuff. Okay, so we popped in some of our darkness here. And this is gonna lay our foundation for us to have some really cool fun with our water, with our other things, with our other elements. And also the concept of keeping our corners dark, okay? So if I see here this water, I'm gonna add some different tones in here just to darken this water at the edge. I don't want this water to have too much pop or prominence. So by darkening this water along the edge here, it's giving it the type of illusion that we want. We want the feeling to come in. And we're gonna do more refinements in these, but I want us to show dramatically or quickly how we can bring some powerful dramatic effects to our painting without doing too much work, because a lot of times the great painting is the little bit we do and not how much we do. So this is what we just want to understand with this concept of building up our waterfalls from our tones and understanding that the further away things get, the lighter they will appear, and understand when to switch to values, to darker values, to lighter values. So we don't want to be stuck into one value tone. We want to have a myriad of values, a myriad of tones working together, streaking. And so these are the things that's going to help us to have a powerful, powerful painting. So we are at the 12:28 moment now. If there are any, we do love show and tell. So if you have show and tell at this moment, this is the time to pull out your masterpieces. And I do have some, for our 3 o'clock portrait painting, I have some paintings that I would like to share and we'll discuss. So anyone have anything to show for our show and tell? We'd definitely like to leave the floor open for you now.
I did my lighthouse the wrong way.
Well, it's no wrong. What can
Yes,
we see?
it is. Because I missed whatever. And I forgot that it was supposed to be on the ocean. And I got it from a brochure.
Okay.
A cruise brochure. And this is...
That's a nice lighthouse. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the greenery, the shrubbery, and whatever that is.
I love it. I love it. I actually love it. That is, Miss Eloise, don't you agree? Miss Beverly,
That's
don't you all agree?
beautiful. Yeah,
Miss
that's
Sharon, isn't that
beautiful.
beautiful? Miss
Right, I
Kaufman,
agree.
isn't that beautiful? That is
I thought
absolutely.
we
I love
wanted
your
water.
window.
We wanted water, right?
Well, I mean, this is your choice now. I love your craftsmanship. I love the way you work your shadows on the outside of your lighthouse. I love the window and the 3-dimensional form of your window. I love the trees, how you have your darker greens and the lighter greens on top of the darker greens to give us that true lifelike natural feel the way that we would see in nature. And your clouds are remarkable. So whatever you don't like about that,
I love the flowers.
right, you have done excellent. Let's give her a round of applause. That's wonderful, right? Let's give her a round of applause.
Well, thank you. I need to pay more attention.
Miss Sharon, do you have my phone number as well?
No, sir.
I would love for you to take my number, and please, if you could text your email to my
I'm
number.
ready. I'm ready.
Okay, it's
I already
40.
did it. I did it to Janet.
Okay, all right, okay. Well, if you could do it to me as well, I would just appreciate it because I want to send it off just to make sure.
Okay, what's your number?
It's 404
Okay.
914
Okay.
6023.
Your mine is 914-6023.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I thank you all so much. Any other show and tell? Any other things that we have? Miss Eloise, I know you got a piece you hold in your hand.
I forgot. I'm sorry.
Okay. Miss Beverly, I know you got a piece on the wall back there that you did or something.
go in the living room, Eloise. Going in the.
Okay. Okay, well, I do thank you all so much. We are at the 12:31 point, and we will be back at 3 o'clock for our portrait painting. I do appreciate everyone being here, and I do look forward to seeing you all at 3 o'clock. Thank you all so, so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kermit.
Thank you.
I missed the whole class.